Hello, and welcome to another Born and Raised in Prescott in in search of Tudor Prescott series, where what I'm doing basically is exploring the links between Prescott and William Shakespeare, and the opening of the new Shakespeare of the North Playhouse. It's the 15th of June. You'd almost think that I had planned these vlogs because it's exactly a month before the Theatre of the North opens. So this time, you may remember last time I dealt with the tithe barn and the actual concept of tithes. Now the tithes were organised by the Church of England. Before the Reformation in 1532, I think it was, when Henry VIII dissolved the Catholic Church and set up the Church of England, basically. He became the head of the church. The church was a Catholic church, and I'm stood here outside St.Mary's Church, the best known building in Prescott, not only in Prescott but in Knowsley, and the only Grade 1 listed building in Knowsley. The church played a very important part in Tudor life, and you can see this just by the size of the building. When most people were living in small buildings around the church, this was dominated the whole of Prescott, in fact the whole of the parish of Prescott, because it was built on a hill and it could be seen for miles, absolutely, right down to the River Mersey and north and everywhere. There was nothing bigger than the church. It was a Catholic church originally. It was everything was ruled by Rome and the Pope, and the Reformation changed all that. And the only reason this church is here now is because it converted to C of E, the Church of England, and followed the rules that Henry VIII had set out for that church. Everything else, the monasteries and anything that was Catholic, were basically destroyed. It was a great land grab that he had, and because the only thing bigger than the king was the church. The church had more money, and it ruled over every people's everyday life. So I'm stood outside the oldest part of this church. This church is not as it would have appeared in Tudor times. Most of this church dates from around 1610, when it was rebuilt, basically, with the patronage of John Ogle and Thomas Bold, who basically put up the money and to rebuild the church. The tower there, well, that wasn't there. The tower was there was built in 1729. And it got struck by lightning. So they had to rebuild it in 1792, and it got struck by lightning again. And then it was restored in 1992. So it's changed a bit since then. There was a tower there when William Shakespeare apparently visited Prescott. A 14th century tower that was knocked down in the 1700s, early 1700s. But I think the church would have been more or less on this scale. There've been at least two churches here, possibly more. And so what I think we'll do is we'll have a look around, and then we'll have a look inside. So come and join me. It's a beautiful church. We know it as St. Mary's
Back in Tudor days, it was known as St. Mary's, the Blessed Virgin, and it still has that name outside the church on the church plaque. There's been about at least 2 churches on this site, as I mentioned in the introduction. The circular shape of the original churchyard that still surrounds the church today indicates that the church was built before the Norman conquest of 1066. The earliest record of a church in Prescot was made in 1140 when it was called St. Mary of the Blessed Virgin, which you can still see on the outside of the church today. There are remains of the old Anglo-Saxon church inside this church, including the old font that still remains and parts of the chantry wall that are much older than the building we see before us today. The church, the mother church, played a very important part in Tudor life. Almost every aspect of people's lives was ruled in some way or another by the church and the church doctrines. They established the church school, which stood just at the back of the church here, but also Prescot Grammar School, which stood on Church Street and was established in 1544. By the time of William Shakespeare's visit to Prescot, the church had been said to be in a very poor condition, and rebuilding of the church took place in 1610. So much of what we see today dates from 1610 onwards to the 1700s. The 14th century tower did stand in the place where this tower stands now, but that was deemed to be unsafe, and in 1719 was pulled down and replaced by this tower in 1729. The current tower is said to be designed by a pupil of Sir Christopher Wren. I wonder if William Shakespeare ever went in this church. We know that John Philip Kemble was christened here, great Shakespearean actor from Prescot. Yeah, so I think we'll have a look in. Yep, let's go.
Let's have a look in St. Mary's Church. So it's great to see St. Mary's Church open today. Beautiful church. I'll just take you for a little walk round. This church must be at least the 3rd church on this site. It probably goes back to the at least 1066, being a church on this site. It's an ancient town, and this actual configuration of St. Mary's Church goes back at least to Jacobean. That's a Jacobean roof on the spectacular Jacobean timbers. Still not Tudor, but as near as damn it. And it's got a plaque up there saying 1610. So it's just outside the Tudor period, as you can see. New stained glass window at the back here. Which is spectacular. And I always loved going in here with the school. When I was at school, at the church school at Beaconsfield Street, and seeing for the first time these magnificent stained glass windows, which I'm glad to say are still here today. It's great, isn't it? So if you haven't been here for a while, then I would strongly suggest you come and have a look inside the church. It's great at the moment because this is a particular open day for the church. Fantastic. I have actually found something Elizabethan and Tudor here. Well, almost. It's a representation of the Tudor rose that you can see on this back wall here. And it's the white rose and the red rose combined. So it's only fair that it should be represented. Isn't that magnificent ceiling? Not quite Tudor, but as near as, damn it. Only 7 years out. Okay, we're in the chancel now, and these black oak fittings here, they look Tudor, don't they? Elizabethan, possibly? But no, they actually date from 1636 and were made by John Rigby of Wigan. Yes, he was a bit talented, wasn't he? Fabulous carvings. John Rigby of Wigan, 1636. So, yeah, but this church, there's no doubt that it stands on the footprints of an even older church, dating back to the early medieval period. This is it's a statue, but it used to be reclining, I think, and used to sit on a coffin, top of a coffin, of John Ogilvy. I think it dates from around 1690, but he's dressed as a Tudor because he would have lived during Queen Elizabeth's time, no doubt. John Ogilvy is a great benefactor of the church, and he made had a chair that was here that was apparently disappeared during the Civil War, but it was found in auction again. I'm not quite sure where it is. I think it might be over here. It might be here. And yeah, this is it, I think. John Ogle, and that dates from 1610, and it disappeared during the Civil War, but was reunited with the church. So there we go. Beautiful church.
That's the vestry. But I don't want my vestry.
If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give us a like and leave a comment. Tell us what you think. If you'd like to see me film some other stuff around Prescot, then give me a suggestion. What kind of things would you like to see? Especially if you're from another part of the world. You're a Prescotian who's watching from somewhere else and like to see something somewhere else. Love to hear from you. These lovely little sculptures I've just found. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that little look at the Mother Church of Prescot. If you did, then you're welcome to make comments, and you're welcome to subscribe to our video channel here, Born and Raised in Prescot. And I'll see you in the next in search of I won't see you in church next time, but I'll see you in search of Tudor Prescot. So see you again. Bye. Yeah. It's very chocolate boxy. It really does give you a feel of how Prescot was This church street's a bit different because it's still got the old Tudor buildings here, which is very nice to see. So